Hello, hello. I am Matt Williamson. How's everyone doing? Let's dig into the final preview of Steelers-Jets. We're going to talk about when New York has the ball here. They averaged 6.7 yards per play last week, but their season-long average is at 4.9. The Steelers surrender only 4.8 yards per play. Only 6 defenses are better. Steelers allow just 14.8 points per game. Only the Chargers are better. The Steelers allowed just 2.8 scoring plays per game, third best in the league. After averaging 2.3 points per drive, that was 10th over the first 3 weeks of the season. New York is now averaging 1.3 over the past 3 weeks, although last week was a little better. But coaching changes, Davante Adams, things are changing. That's a hard trend to kind of get on. The Jets are throwing the ball 64% of the snaps. Only Seattle and Dallas throw it more. But in the last 3 games, they've thrown it 71% of their offensive plays. I do think they want to feature Breece Hall more, just watching that last game with the new coaching staff. But that's also as a receiver and a runner. So we'll see if that keeps up. You also just traded for a stud receiver. The Steelers allow their opponents to convert a set of downs into a new set of downs or touchdowns at a 69% rate. Only 10 defenses are better. Last week, the Jets had multiple receivers with 100-plus yards and a ball carrier with 100-plus rushing yards for the first time since week 2 of 2016. Aaron Rodgers has 2 or more touchdown passes in 4 of his past 5 games. He threw for 294 yards last week. That's his highest ever as a Jet. His 6.4 yards per attempt is only higher than 6 qualified quarterbacks, though, and his completion percentage of 62% is only better than 5. His 241 dropbacks are the 5th most in the league, so he's throwing the ball a ton. And his average time to throw is only higher than Baker Mayfield and Andy Dalton. So the ball's coming out quick, but his completion percentage isn't real high, nor is his yards per attempt. The Jets used a ton more pre-snap motion, play action, shotgun this past week. And without getting into too much about the percentages and whatnot, Rodgers was much better when using all 3. That's definitely going to be a coaching point, a coaching change situation is less staticness on offense, I would say, is the good way of putting it. You're going to see a lot more motion, a lot more things to test the defense. Steelers allow 9.2 yards per attempt on play action passes. That's 23rd. And 7.7 yards when the opponent uses motion, also 23rd. So you think you saw a lot of it on Monday night. You're definitely going to see much more of it in this game because Steelers aren't real great at defending it. In week 5, Garrett Wilson was targeted 23 times. And then last week was 10 times. He is the most targeted receiver in the league. And only Chris Godwin has more receptions. Now, that has to go down with Davante Adams around. I mean, I think that they realized they were way too Garrett Wilson dependent. And now they have 2 stud receivers. And Allen Lazard's a pretty good 3. His 5 receiving touchdowns is the most in the league, tied with 4 other pass catchers. But however, between Lazard and Mike Williams, they've accounted for about 26% of the team's targets. I would think a lot of those are going to Adams. Adams and Rodgers, basically without getting into the numbers, their time together those last couple of years between 2018 and 2021 were about as good of quarterback receiver production as you'll see in NFL history. I mean, to put it mildly, I mean, it's right there with like Ben and AB. I mean, so that's a company they kept when they were together. Now, that was a while ago, 2021, but still. The Steelers are allowing 10.4 yards per target to outside receivers. That's 29th in the league. And they're also allowing 5.7 receptions per game to tight ends. That's 27th in the league. Playing Brock Bowers has something to do with that. I mentioned they get Hall involved a lot in the passing game. He was targeted 10 times, caught 8 of them for 107. Rodgers. He's been sacked multiple times in every game this season except for week 1 when he was only sacked once. And over the past 3 games, Rodgers has been sacked 11 times. And remember, he's getting the ball out quick. There's a lot of quick pressures against him. That's going to be a massive, massive key for the Steelers. Now, the Steelers are only blitzing on 20.4% of opposing dropbacks. That's the 6th lowest percentage in the NFL. And on third downs, that goes all the way down to 9%. That's the lowest in the league. I don't know if you heat him up more or not, or if you think you get home with 4 with Highsmith back. That's going to be interesting to me because Rodgers historically has also ripped up the blitz. There's only 2 players in the league with more interceptions than Dante Jackson. He has 3. Folks, this episode is brought to you by BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number 1 source for everything football. From NFL to college, BetOnline is every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head over to the online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of over 150 different slot games. Head to the website today and use the promo code BELIEVE, all caps BLEAV, and get in on the action. BetOnline. The game starts here. All right, let's get into the Jets running game here. Only 3.9 yards per attempt. Yards per rush attempt. Only Dallas, Vegas, and Chicago are worse. But they are also in the bottom 5 in yards before contact, getting stuffed at the line of scrimmage or behind, and contact behind the line of scrimmage. They're the only team in the league that is in bottom 5 in all 3 of those categories. Pretty rough. But it does look like it's getting better. In week 6, Hall only had 23 rushing yards. In week 5, he only had 4 rushing yards. Before last week, he was only averaging 39.4 rushing yards per game. But on Monday night against the Bills, he had 44 rushing yards in the first quarter. They were obviously very dedicated to him and finished with 113 yards on the ground and 220 yards from scrimmage total. Hall received 18 of a possible 21 rushing attempts on Monday night. He led all NFL running backs in snap share that week. Still, Hall only averages 3.7 yards per carry. However, him and Alvin Kamara are the only 2 players with 300-plus rushing yards and 200-plus receiving yards. The running back position averages just 3.5 yards per carry against the Steelers. That doesn't include quarterback scrambles, of course. That's 4th best. They give up 2.5 yards after first contact. That is also 4th best. New York only has 13 rushes of 10 or more yards. Only the Chiefs, Rams, Cowboys have fewer. The Steelers have only allowed 15 such runs. Only 6 defenses are better. 19.6% of runs against the Steelers have resulted in a loss of yardage or no gain. That's also 6th best in the league. And their 2.64 rushing yards after first contact allowed is 5th best. So TJ Watt has forced 30 fumbles since 2017. Think about that. Most in the league during that time. He's also one of 3 defensive players this year to have multiple tackles for loss in 3 games, along with Max Crosby and Kyle Van Noy. Steelers are allowing just a 39% red zone conversion rate. Only the Broncos and Saints are better. During the Jets' 3-game losing streak, they're converting just 33% of their red zone opportunities into touchdowns, which is 3rd worst since week 4. That's going to be a huge key here as well. Another big key is the Steelers have a major advantage in special teams. So I always just I don't cite them necessarily, but I go to Pro Football Focus and I go to Football Outsiders /FTN. And in both those metrics, special teams across the board, the Steelers are absolutely near the top. They're like top 5 in special teams. That might surprise some of you, but you block kicks, you don't miss field goals. Return game's been pretty good. The Steelers are absolutely one of the best special teams units in the league. The Jets are near the bottom. I mean, their field goal kicker has been problematic. They also have blocked a punt, but the Steelers should have a major special teams advantage. That being said, I'm taking the Jets to win this game 23-17. I think they are an absolutely desperate team after a 3-game losing streak that has made sweeping changes to the organization at head coach in this Devontae Adams trade. This is a game they absolutely need. You have to give them the quarterback advantage, although I can't wait to watch Russ. I think, frankly, they probably have the better roster as well, more star power. I think their defense is really going to give the Steelers' offensive line a lot of problems, without Frazier and the way Broderick Jones is playing. That's a really tough matchup. It's certainly a game the Steelers can win. I just don't think it sets up particularly well for them. This is, I think, the first time I've picked against the Steelers all year going into the game. And I also think that there's something to night game, Tomlin, versus a coach that's only coached one game in his life. I mean, I get all that. And TJ Watt could feast and all those good things. I mean, I think this is going to be a very competitive game. But I do have New York winning. So there you have it. As is the case with all these night games, I will come back with a podcast super late at night, pretty much right when it ends, to try to get these in your ears as soon as possible. That's a wrap. Take care.